All right, good morning, everybody. It looks like Ryan is on the queue. This is great. So Jordan Guillen here, PSP staff out of London, Ontario, servicing Southwestern Ontario, here to provide a functional core strength class for you this morning. I've been providing these now every other Monday since the COVID-19 situation has come about. If you have any comments, you can go ahead and leave those at any point into the queue. We're going to give it another minute before we get started, but what I will do at this time is take the opportunity to go through our disclaimer. So in response to COVID-19, PSP is offering telefitness to Canadian Armed Force members. By using social media platforms, the telefitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Forces personnel become accessible to all. Prior to participating in this session and to make an informed decision on whether you should seek advice from a qualified exercise professional or healthcare provider, consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and its reference document. And that's provided in the details for this class. By continuing with this telefitness class, you understand that there's the possibility of physical injury, and you agree that you do so voluntarily at your own risk. You also assume all risk of injury and agree to release the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services from any and all claims related to your participation in this telefitness class. So good morning, everybody. We're just going to go ahead and get started right away. If you weren't on the queue when I made the initial announcement, so my name is Jordan Guillen. I'm the PSP Fitness and Sports Coordinator out of London, Ontario, servicing Southwestern Ontario. And today we're going to be focusing on a functional core strength class. For those who have maybe attended my class in the past, it is going to be somewhat of a similar structure with some modifications to the class itself. So if you want to open up the description, you certainly will be able to see all the details for the class today. Before I break down the structure and give you that overview, I do want to just take a moment to plug some of our programs and services. So you're most likely viewing this off of the PSP Garrison Toronto page. Just make sure that you also check out the PSP Southwestern Ontario page, as well as my personal page, which is Jordan B. Guillen. Make sure you also take the opportunity to visit the Canadian Armed Forces PSP national page, which will obviously link you to CAF Connection and other classes that are being provided virtually, much like this one. So there is a schedule of classes of 5 days per week, and that's Monday through Friday. That's 12 hours a day. Last thing I want to mention is just to promote specifically the PSP Garrison Toronto, PSP Southwestern Ontario 5K virtual run that is taking place on the 28th, 29th. Details related to that is on both of those Facebook pages that I mentioned. And if you have any specific questions, you can always put those in the comments and Ryan can provide you the link to the details of that. So hopefully everybody's well. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to break down the class itself. I will say that in terms of the overall structure, today we're going to be looking at finishing up somewhere between 1/4 and 10:2, so that'll be the ballpark for the range. The main body of the class itself is going to be in and around 30 minutes. It's going to be divided into 2 parts. And we're going to be focusing on functional core strength today because it's important to have a nice, solid, strong core. So that's going to translate into anything we do, whether you're a Canadian Armed Force member and you're doing your daily task or your daily job, or possibly you're in the field and you need to sandbag or you need to move objects. Having a nice, strong core is going to help reduce the risk of injury, and it's going to give you a little bit of that endurance that you need to continually work. So within today's class, that's going to be the primary concern, is we're going to focus on engaging and keeping the core nice and controlled throughout the class. Anything we do muscularly, we always want to control, regardless of what the movement is. We want to make sure that we're getting a good contraction and we're not using too much external momentum. That way we can stay engaged throughout. So Being functional, we are going to focus on some movements that do appear to be traditional, but they do translate over into engaging a nice strong core. So a lot of the movements we're going to do initially are going to be with some form of resistance. So if you don't have any already, a backpack is what I'm going to be using today. You can certainly use a kettlebell if you have one. That's what Terry's going to be using. You can use a laundry bottle. Any of the resistance that's going to translate into the class that we're doing today. So how much you're using for resistance is just going to depend on your starting point. We are going to focus on going through a series of 4 exercises, which we have completed in the past, but we're going to structure it a little bit different. So before we start in the class, I'm going to demonstrate what these movements are. And that main body is going to take about 25 minutes. We're going to build some rest into that. And then we're going to focus on doing a finisher in towards the end, which will be approximately 5 minutes. So for those of you who are beginners today, maybe you haven't done this class before, as far as the time that I'm going to be cueing, I will be placing a timer so that everybody can see the time. But it's going to be based upon a 50-second work and a 10-second transition. If you're a beginner, you may just decide to work for 30 seconds and rest for 30. If you're an intermediate, you may decide to work for 40, rest for 20, or you might work along with Terry and I, which would be more advanced, and essentially we're going to work for 50, transition for 10, and continue working. So for the sequencing today, we're going to focus on moving through all of those exercises, so that's 1 through 4 continuously. Last time we built in some rest period after, but this time we're going to go immediately through a second time, and then we're going to build the rest into it from there. So we're going to rest either 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And what we're going to aim to do is we're going to go through that 2.5 times today. So we're going to actually end up going through 5 rounds. And everything we do is going to be single armed, and we're going to do this to put the body off balance and to help initiate and engage the core further. So that's going to be the structure today. You don't necessarily need to use a lot of resistance. It's just going to depend on your starting point. A lot of this is going to be strength endurance. It may end up being strength depending on where your starting point is or how much weight you're using. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get into the exercises, and then I'm going to jump into a warm-up. So we'll go through these exercises relatively quickly. And I'm just going to adjust this so that I can go through these movements with you. If you do have any questions at any point in time, I want you to just go ahead and put those in the queue. So in terms of what I'm going to be using for resistance today, I do have my backpack. The first exercise we will be starting off with is going to be a single arm thruster, and I'm going to add a squat into it. So you can't quite see my backpack, but it is down here in front of me. And what I am going to end up doing is I'm going to reach down, keeping a nice neutral spine. I'm going to lift the bag and bring it up to one side, and I'm going to thrust it up overhead. I'm going to bring it down, and then I'm going to come into a squat, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Okay, so that's the first 50 seconds, the first movement. We're then going to focus on going into a push-up, and we're going to move that into a single arm plank. I'm going to move this down just a little bit because I'm not confident you're going to see what I'm doing here. So we're going to come into this push-up position. We're going to focus on performing that push-up. I'm going to recommend that the feet are wider, and then we're going to come up to one side. We're going to come down. We're going to come up to the other. We're going to come down, and we're going to go into the push-up. I'm only going to show you the more complex of the movements initially, and as we're going through the class, we'll modify. So we're going to focus on the lunge. So opposite arm, opposite leg. We're going to bring that resistance just up above, and we're going to step forward with the opposite leg, staying nice and tall, and we're going to step back. So you can focus on one side, and then halfway through, we're going to focus on switching. So we're keeping the chest nice and tall, and the depth of your lunge is going to be up to you. So the last movement we're going to focus on is going to be a stiff leg deadlift with a row. It's going to be a single arm. So feet are going to be hip width, shoulder width apart. We're going to grab onto the bag. We're going to come to the upper position. We're going to lower down. We're going to row. We come back up. We lower down. We're going to row. And as I mentioned before, we'll be switching from one side to the other. So those are the initial exercises. If you do have any questions at this point, go ahead and leave them in the queue. Ryan's working that. So what we're going to do is we'll jump into the warm-up. If you don't have any other questions at this point in time, when we're done the warm-up, you can grab yourself a drink, and then we'll get started with the class itself. So you should be able to see that. I don't think that that's in the way at all. So I want to just loosen up initially. So just start off. We're going to progressively increase the difficulty here. So we're just going to start off by walking on the spot. And I just want to loosen up in through the upper body. And then we're going to get, obviously the lower body's moving as well. We're going to get the heart rate up just marginally. It'll get up during the class. Let's focus on bringing the arms in and out. So because we're going to have so much continual work within the class today, that's if you're working along directly with Terry and I, your heart rate is most likely going to get into an aerobic zone. So even though we're focusing on functional core strength, let's push in and out, we are going to focus on getting that heart rate up, and it most likely will maintain into that aerobic type zone. So you're going to get a little bit more out of it in that respect. But at any point in time, if you'd like, you can just focus on just taking a little bit more rest. And then obviously as you do that, your heart rate is going to come down. As it relates to the finisher, we're going to talk about that a little bit more during one of our rest periods. So I'll be cueing you through, I'll be timing all of that for you. Let's relax through the upper body. Let's just focus on bringing the knees up. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Everybody had a good Father's Day. Probably got a good amount of food into you. Glycogen stores are ready. You have a lot of energy today to expend. So we'll just make sure that we loosen up a bit before we get into that work itself. So let's bring the heels back now. And for those of you who don't know Terry's my partner. And she's been an all-star working with us throughout this process. She's going to be doing most of the work today, and I'm going to work along with you, but I may pause at times as well. Let's just focus on jogging on the spot. So getting that heart rate up, just loosening up a little bit here before we get into some specific movements that we'll be doing either initially or later. Let's bring it into some jumping jacks. Remember to coil the knees as you come down. We don't want to be landing stiff-legged at all. All right, let's walk it out here for a moment. Let's get into some more specific type movements. So feet are hip width, shoulder width apart. You can bring your arms in front of you. We're going to focus on doing 5 squats initially. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's focus on a lunge, and we're going to alternate. So we'll go from one to the other. Chest is nice and tall, so stepping forward, stepping back. Depth is up to you. Make sure that that front heel stays in contact. 2 more on each side. And 1 more on each side. From here, let's bring it into a push-up position. So it's also going to resemble a plank, and let's focus on doing 5 push-ups. From the knees is fine as well. Stay controlled. From here, let's go wider with our feet. Bring your hand more in towards the center, and let's alternate from side to side. Try to stay nice and engaged through the core. Heart rate's definitely going to be coming up a little bit here. Let's do 1 more on each side. And from here, I'm going to get you to come down on all 4s. And let's just focus on doing a few bird dogs in this position. So you can also focus on coming in and out, but we're only going to do a few aside. So let's switch to the other side. All right, so go ahead, grab a drink, and we're going to go ahead and get started momentarily. Yeah, I'm not going to be playing music here, so feel free to play your own music at home. So I failed to mention that in the beginning. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get started. We're going to jump right into round one. So we're starting off with the thruster. Any questions are going out to Ryan. So we'll make sure the volume's up here. All right, so weights coming up, single arm. Just at your own pace. I'm adding in the squat here because I'm using the bag. Terry's performing it slightly differently. So as I said in the beginning, if you're working along with Terry and I, we're going for 50 seconds. But if you're a beginner, intermediate, or even if you're intermediate and advanced and you're using more weight, you might be working less and taking extra rest. Absolutely fine. So everything is controlled here, making sure we're always engaging the core. It's our primary focus. All right, moving into the push-up, and the push-up's going to include the side plank. So only if you're ready, if you need to, you can go down to your knees. So we push up, and then we come up to the side. We're going to come over to the other side, back to the middle, push up. So you can adjust as you need to. You can always focus on just holding the plank, just moving from side by side. You can always do the push-up from the knees, okay? So modify as you need to. Everybody's at a different point, and this is a long time to do this movement if you're not conditioned for it. All right, into the lunge, bag overhead. Oh, that might pop off though. Staying nice and tall. Halfway through, we're going to switch here. Opposite arm, opposite leg, staying engaged. Make sure you switch. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Focusing on that core. Stay nice and tight, stay engaged. Heart rate's going to be up. We've been moving continuously with not too much rest. You're resting as you need to, according to where you are and what your goals are today. Back is neutral or slightly arched. We'll focus on one side, and then we're going to move to the other. Keep everything fully controlled. Switching sides. Knees are slightly bent. Back is neutral. I'm keeping my chest tall, focusing on sticking my hips out behind. All right, now that I'm warm, I'm just gonna throw on my backpack here. This might take me a moment. We're not resting yet. Start with Terry. So now we're back into the thruster with the squat. So I put the weight on just to make it a little bit more difficult. And I waited just because I wanted to ensure I was nice and warm before I added that extra resistance. So once we get through this series, that's where we're going to focus on taking our rest, as explained in the beginning. Core is nice and tight. Stay engaged. It's not a race. It's not about how quick we finish or how many reps we get in. It's good quality reps. All right, so we're into that push-up position. Remember, you can modify from the knees. You can focus on only holding the plank or going side by side as well. Keep everything nice and controlled. Stay tight through the midsection. Starting to perspire a little bit too much to be wearing those glasses. It's always a good thing. Down to the knees. If you're getting too fatigued, if you have a backpack on like me, make sure it's secured. You don't want it moving around too much. A little bit of movement will help you or force you to control through the midsection. All right, back up into the upper position. We got 2 more movements, then we're going to take that extra rest. So we're into the lunge. Single arm, single leg. Opposites. Engage the core. Watch the front heel. Make sure it stays in contact. Halfway through, we're going to switch sides. All right, let's switch. Opposite arm, opposite leg, carrying through. So once we get through this round, that'll be 2. We're going to do another the same, and then a half set, which will be going through once. All right, at home, as I mentioned, if you need extra rest, take it. Jump back in when you're ready. We got our row. We're not going to straighten out completely at the top. I don't want you to lose tension through the hamstring. So keep that chest nice and tall. Keep that neutral or slightly arched spine with your chest up. And let's switch sides. Everything is controlled. Not using momentum. If you're working along with us, your heart rate's probably in towards at least the low end of the aerobic zone. It's going to depend on your conditioning. So all of us are going to be different. Okay, so I'm going to pause this for a moment. I want you guys at home to go ahead, take some rest. Let me know how it's going. Let me know how you're feeling. We do have 3 more rounds. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start the clock here. This is going to be our rest timer. So we're going to take 1.5 minutes. But go ahead, add any comments. I'd like to hear what music you're listening to, what you think of the exercise combination, or any comments that you might have at all. I actually can't see those right now, but I will see if I can. I will take a look. But Ryan is the man on the queue, and he's probably answering or commenting to any questions. Not really any at this point, absolutely fine. You guys are probably working hard. If you're curious at all of what I'm using for resistance or how much, I have about 10 pounds on my back And then this bag here would be in and around 15 to 20. But we've also progressed to this point. So we've done a series of different classes every other Monday. If you're just joining in on this one, you certainly can go back to the beginning. There's small variations, but a lot of things are similar. So I do have some consistency throughout those classes so that you can engage your own success or your own improvement. So that's my point and purpose of doing all of this. So we're going to go through this again after our rest in that exact same sequence. So we're going to do 2 full rounds. We'll take another bit of rest, and then we're going to do it one last time, but only once, not twice through. We'll take another break, and then we'll move into the finisher. So that's our time. Let's go ahead. Let's get started again. Hopefully you guys came ready to sweat, because sweat you will today. So we're back into the first movement, which is the thruster. So everything under control, as discussed before. So heart rate would have come down a little bit at that point. You would have caught your breath a little bit. And if you're a beginner, or if you didn't catch your breath and you're feeling that fatigue, then just take extra rest. You're working on your own. You can always come back to this class, continue to progress with it, move from a beginner to an intermediate in terms of rest, and then into advanced. Keep it the same, add weight. So we kept our weight the same today, but we added the extra set. So that's our progression. So we're back into that push-up position. Remember those modifications, especially as we get deeper into the class and you get more fatigue. So we got the push-up and then to the side plank. So for feet positioning, I definitely recommend that they be wider, and then just control your movement. So as I come into my plank, I'll move my hands closer in towards the center, and then I'll move them out again as I go into my push-up. So if you don't want to do the side twist, you can just hold the regular position. So that would be the top plank position. You can also just focus on the negative as it relates to the push-up if you started to fatigue. All right, into the lunge. Resting at any point in time, okay? Grab a drink as you need to. Fairly advanced class if you're working along and doing everything that Terry and I are doing. Chest tall, front heel in contact. Depth is up to you. Control that core. The opposite oblique is going to be tense. It's trying to manage the resistance. Come to the opposite side. And let's continue through. If you're like me and you have a backpack, don't let it rest on your shoulder. Don't make it easier on yourself. Try to control your breathing as your heart rate increases. Let's get ready to move into that row. Back, neutral. We have that row. And up. Everything is controlled. I don't care about how many reps you do. I want you to engage everything. Mind to your muscle. Keep your core tight as you move. Halfway through, let's switch. So if you haven't already, let's switch sides. Everything engaged. Everything controlled. Core is tight. Awesome work. Let's keep it up. At home, adjusting as you need to. Move right back into the thrusters with the squat. So it's only that 10-second transition. You're resting if you need it. Let's get into position, chest tall, using a little bit of the knee, as you can see, to thrust the weight into the top position, but everything's controlled. Great work at home. If you're feeling tired, if you need the rest, I want you to take it. Pay attention. Where did you get tired? What was your sequence in today's class? What can you do next time? What would be your improvement? When we're looking at progression, we always want to try to do slightly more, but it always has to be within reason. All right, back into the push-up. So if you're fatigued, maybe focus on the plank itself. You can leave out the rotation, maybe only do the rotation. As mentioned, feet wider, so past or equal to shoulder width is going to be the most beneficial here. Keeping your body tight here. I want you to really focus on squeezing through the midsection. Keeping everything tight. Everything's controlled. Everything's slow. Your mind is connected with your body. You're thinking about everything that you're doing. All right, overhead, alternate side. Strong and ready. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Stay tall. Almost twice through here. That'll be 2 full rounds. We're going to take a little bit more rest this time. We'll take 2 minutes. Let's switch sides here. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Everything is still controlled. Quality reps, not quantity. Control your breath. In and out, controlled. One more movement, and then we're moving into 2 minutes rest. Back neutral, slightly arched. Feet hip width, shoulder width apart. Don't twist at the hips. Stay engaged. Focus on that core. Keep it nice and tight. Knees are slightly bent, as you can see. I'm not locking out that top position with my hips. I want to keep tension on the hamstrings. It's going to be the back of the upper leg. Trying not to twist too much with the body, switch sides. That's going to be naturally what you're going to want to do because all the weight is on one side. But fight to stay neutral. That's the whole point of today. Engage that core as we go through these functional movements. All right, take a break. I'd love to hear how you guys are doing. Let me know. I'll scroll down in the comments here. As you can see, I'm not hiding anything here. The perspiration is certainly there. We even have the AC pumping. Doesn't seem to be helping. Body temperature is certainly up. Everybody's sweating a storm. I certainly would hope so. I am. Terry is. Heart rate's up. It's going to come down a little bit. It's going to allow us to get in this last set. So the last set is only once through. That's going to be our adjustment for this week, 5 sets instead of 4 sets. And then last time, if you didn't catch this, we went through once and rested for a minute and did that for 4 times. So a little bit different. She likes the progression, Marissa. That's good. I'm glad. Offer something a little bit different. People can go back if they want to start at one of the first workouts and progress into this one. So, all right, I'm going to step back. I'm going to get ready for the next round. It'll be the last one, then we'll take a little bit more rest. Obviously, we're getting a little bit more fatigued at this point, so I do want you guys to really stay cautious and stay focused on your form and your technique. As soon as you start to break down is when I want you to focus on taking additional rest. We don't want to compromise any of our form, any of our position. We always want to make sure that we're getting max benefit without putting ourselves into the territory of injuring ourselves. So I'm going to step back now, and we're going to get ready for this last round. So that's our 2 minutes. Hopefully you guys grabbed a drink. This is going to start right into it relatively quickly. I only got 4 seconds on the timer here. So we're back into the squat thrust. So get your position, stay controlled. And if you didn't catch what I was saying, maybe you were away grabbing a drink, using the washroom, this is going to be our last set here, and we're only going through each of these exercises once before we take that last little bit of rest and then move into our finisher for today. Back nice and neutral, depth in the squat is up to you. I'm adding the squat because I'm not really getting low enough. Terry's coming down lower, so she's most likely not adding in the squat in the same way. So just adjust as you need to. So last round of each of these movements, not including the finisher. So push-up position. Remember those modifications from before? I want you to stay controlled through everything we do here. You guys can maybe see behind me towards Terry's feet. Max has joined us again today. He has made a cameo appearance on pretty well every workout. I think he likes being on film. He's just resting though, just nice max relaxation. Rest of us are all jealous here, but we're gonna earn it. We're gonna earn our recovery. All right, 2 more here. So we're back into the lunge, the overhead hold. If you're getting too fatigued, you feel yourself breaking down, just lose your resistance. Do less work, take more rest. Can easily modify. Certainly feeling it now. Let's switch sides. Control your breathing, control your heart rate. Nice and tall, focusing on up, down, keeping the opposite oblique engaged. Whether you're realizing it or not, just touch it, it's going to be tight. Last movement here. Don't let yourself twist. Stay tight, stay engaged. Everything's under control. You're using less resistance. You can make it more difficult by slowing down your overall movement. Never completely neglect the negative either, which is going to be the lowering point of the movement. It's a common mistake. Switch sides if you haven't already, and continue through. Almost there. Nice and controlled. Okay, so that's it for that part of the class. Why doesn't everybody go ahead and grab a drink? I'll just leave that there so that you guys can see your success. I'm going to lose this backpack here. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to wrap up today no later than 10 to. So we're just going to take a little breather before we go into the finisher. The finisher is just going to be a series. It's going to include some of the movements that we had done. And we're going to do it at a 2 rep for each exercise initially. It's going to be a continual flow. So I'll just go ahead and show you before we start. The only thing that's going to change is the amount of reps per leg on some of the independent side movements. So we have a squat, a reverse lunge, a step down into a push-up, to bird dog, to rotating plank, and that's going to be a sequence. So I'll just go through that for you now. So we're going to start off with the squat, and we will do as many reps as we are counted to, but I'm only going to do 1 just to show you. So we're going to focus on a squat. We're going to step. So that's 1 and 1. From here, we're going to step down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the push-up. We're going to drop down. We're going to go in to the bird dog. We're going to come back up. We're going to go in to the side twist. And then what we're going to do is we're going to step back up. Okay, that will be a round, but we're going to do it for the amount of reps that's indicated. So there's our 2 minutes rest. So let's everybody just get into position. The first one is going to be for 2 reps. So on my cue, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So we're going to start with this squat. It's going to be 1, 2, reverse lunge. 1, 1, 2, 2. Step down into the push-up for 2. 1, 2. Into the bird dog for 1, 1, 2, 2. Back up into the twist for 1, 1, 2, 2. And from here, we're back up. Okay, let's take a little breather. We're going to do that this time for 4. And then we'll do it again for 2. And then we're going to focus on the cool down. So I'm not going to allow for too much rest here. Heart rate got up a little bit. Let's just get back into position. So we're doing that exact same sequence again, but we're doing it for 4. So on my cue, in 3, 2, 1. It's 1 squat, 2, 3, 4. Reverse lunge. Stay nice and tall. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Step back. 4 push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bird dog. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Back into a side plank for 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, and 4. Let's step back up. Take a little moment here. We're going to do that one more time. Catch your breath, grab a drink. We're back down to 2 reps per. I'm sure everybody's ready to finish this up. We're nice and eager. The heart rate's still elevated. Let's just do it. Let's get it done. So on my cue, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 2 squats. 1, 2. 2 reverse per side. 1. 1. Stay tall. 2. 2. Oh, sorry. Push up. I wanted to keep going. 1. 2. Bird dog. 1. 1. 2. 2. Side plank. 1. 1. 2. And 2. Let's bring it back up. All right. Awesome work, guys. Well done. Go ahead, grab a drink. We're going to just walk it out for a moment, let the heart rate come back down. Well done, Terry. All-star as usual. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the class. I will stick around after for any questions. I know Ryan's been doing an excellent job in answering any that are coming out. So Kimberly Dawn, awesome. Where are you from, Kimberly? You might be one of our people who are tuning in from either Garrison, Toronto, or maybe somewhere else in the country. You don't have to respond if you don't want to. Just kind of curious. It's always great to see people coming out who I don't know or who I haven't seen before. Ryan probably liked that. So let's just start to stretch it out then. I'm going to stick to my word of finishing by 10-2. So we're just moving around on the spot. And as we're doing so, we're just going to bring the arms out front. And what we're looking to do is just spread out the upper back. So walk around. I like to walk around just to help bring the heart rate back down to normal. So progressively bringing it down. Thank you, Marissa. I can see that you liked the class. That's great. Hopefully those who did it found it to be challenging. Let's bring the arm across, but also well structured and a good progression to what we have been doing. So we're just holding each stretch on each side for around 15 to 20 seconds. So once the heart rates come down, we'll move down and we'll do a few stretches from the floor. Let's bring the arm across, stretching out the opposite side. I'm going to use this chance again to plug. So most of you watching this, or all of you, are watching this from the PSP Garrison Toronto Facebook page. Be sure to check out the PSP Southwestern Ontario page. So we're going to stretch out the chest now. A lot of the same content, but you might find some stuff that is slightly different. If you haven't already and you're interested, the PSP Garrison Toronto Southwestern Ontario PSP virtual run, it's not too late to register. You can always direct message us. You can ask a question about it in this comment section and we'll reply with the information related to that, but it's under events under the PSP Garrison Toronto page. So it's a great progressive program. Let's just bring the arm up behind the head. Keep the head nice and tall, chin up off your chest. It's a progressive program. The run itself will take place on the 28th, 29th of June, and it is going to progress into the 10K run, which will take place later in July. So make sure you do go ahead and register or just ask questions if you're interested. The Canadian Armed Forces PSP national page is going to have a lot of great information from all bases. Let's just focus on coming forward now. Heel down, toe up, and we're pushing our hips back, still keeping our back neutral. I'm not sure what happened. It still says that it's recording live. But my screen is saying that we're having trouble playing this video. So I'm not overly certain what's happening. If you can hear me though, we'll just continue. So let's switch to the other leg. So if you were using your right leg, let's switch to the left, but we're doing the exact same stretch movement here. I'm going to verbally try to talk everybody through, and then we'll just hope that you can still see me, and maybe it's the fact that I just can't see myself. So hopefully your heart rates come down enough. For the next stretch here, what we're going to do is we're just going to come down to a seated position. We're going to extend one leg out in front of us directly. We're bending the other leg right right at the knee so that the opposite foot is coming in towards the inside of our upper leg, of the leg that's extended. And what we're doing is we're reaching out, so I don't have to be as descriptive as what you guys are telling me. So thanks for putting that in there, because here I was thinking that you guys can't see us, but it's only us who can't see. So that's good. Let's take this leg that's bent, let's bring it over top. Keep that back nice and straight. We're going to do this same stretch for the other side, then we're just going to finish with a quad stretch, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So let's take that bent leg, let's bring it out, let's tuck the opposite leg in, let's reach out. Good opportunity here to focus on increasing your flexibility. We're nice and warm at this point, so we're going to be a little bit more elastic. We can focus on stretching a little bit further. We're going to help to move some of that blood that's been pooled into the muscle throughout the body, hopefully trying to eliminate some of that lactic buildup or that DOMS, that delayed onset muscle soreness. Let's take the opposite leg, let's bring it over top. And the last stretch is going to be a quad stretch. Terry will demonstrate that on the mat, and I'm just going to stand up to finish it off here. So you can always duplicate any of these stretches here. Let's just bring it up or onto the ground. Try to find a focal point. You have a bend in your extended leg. Stay nice and tall. You're bringing your heel in towards your glute while we're in this position. So I'm going to take the opportunity to thank everybody today for joining the class. I really do appreciate the attendance today, and it's great to see new names on the comments, people who I don't necessarily know, but if you have any feedback, if you want to DM me, you certainly can. You can always ask the questions directly to this comment box. And if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to still leave a comment. We will get the notification and we will answer your questions. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the class today. That was a functional core strength class. We focused on this today to try to enhance and build a stronger core with greater muscular endurance to help try to enable us to do some of the tasks that we do at home or in the field more effectively while reducing the risk of injury. So thank you very much for attending. You guys have a great day. And like I said, if you have any comments, you can leave those after the fact. Thank you very much. All the best. Jordan Guillen, PSB staff, London, Ontario, servicing Southwestern Ontario, logging out.